the vast darkness of space stretched endlessly, cold and silent, until a faint glimmer appeared far beyond the human border patrol lines. At first it looked like a small reflection on the sensors, but the readings grew stronger every second, revealing shapes that no human ship carried. These were long, sharp warships, their hulls glinting with alien alloys, moving in a tight, confident formation. They had crossed into human space without warning, without sending a signal, without asking for permission. Aboard the human dreadnought Valiant Resolve, Captain Ethan Cole stood at the main tactical display. The dim blue lights of the command center flickered across his face, showing the calm, focused expression of a man who had seen war before. The screen in front of him displayed the alien fleet, more than 24 ships, with a massive flagship at the center. Their path was direct, aimed toward a cluster of human colonies beside him. Lieutenant Claire Morgan adjusted her headset and began locking in communication lines to other fleets. Her voice was calm but urgent as she relayed orders. She had served with Ethan for years and knew that when his eyes narrowed like this, it meant danger was coming. "Captain, they're not even trying to mask their entry signatures," Claire said, her fingers flying over the console. "They're making no effort to hide." "Good," Ethan replied, his voice low and steady. "It makes them easier to track." Around them, the bridge crew moved quickly, their chairs swiveling, hands typing commands. The sound of boots on metal echoed softly through the chamber. Radar operators called out updated positions, and the deep thrum of the ship's core vibrated faintly underfoot. Outside, the Valiant Resolve drifted like a sleeping giant, its weapon systems dormant for now, but ready to awaken at a moment's notice. Far away, in the open void, the alien ships moved like predators closing in on prey. Their formation was tight and aggressive, showing no sign of fear. The leader of the fleet seemed to think the humans would be too slow to respond. But Ethan knew better. Human space was not like other territories. It was a place where every star, every asteroid belt, and every hidden outpost had been mapped and fortified. "Patch me through to the Kelmar Relay Outpost," Ethan ordered. "Tell them to alert Vanguard Fleet Command. We'll shadow them until backup arrives." Claire nodded. Sending encrypted bursts of data across space, the alien fleet continued forward, unaware that their every move was being mirrored. Small human scout ships sitting in the shadows of asteroid fields fed live intel back to the dreadnought. Ethan studied the incoming data with the patience of a hunter. He knew that striking too early would risk giving the aliens a chance to retreat, and no intruder was allowed to leave human space once caught on the sensor display. The alien flagship emitted faint energy waves. Scanning the surrounding area, they were searching for human defenses. Not realizing that the defenses were already around them, Ethan's lips curved into the faintest smile. This was the mistake most intruders made. They thought of humans as merely protective of their own territory. But in truth, humans had become masters at turning an invasion into a trap. Claire leaned closer to the screen. "Sir, initial scans show heavy plasma weaponry and advanced shield arrays, but their rear armor is weak." "Then that's where we'll hit them," Ethan replied, not looking away from the display. The hum of tension on the bridge grew stronger. Comms officers relayed updates from patrol ships. Engineers checked and rechecked reactor output. And in the hangar bays, pilots were strapping into fighters. The atmosphere wasn't frantic. No one was panicking, but there was a sharp edge to every movement. The kind of alert readiness that only came from years of military discipline. Ethan finally stepped away from the display and walked slowly toward the main observation window. Far ahead, in the deep black, faint specks of alien metal glimmered. In reflected starlight, they were still far enough away to be safe from weapons fire, but close enough that Ethan could feel the weight of their presence. Claire joined him at the glass. "Do you think they know we're here?" she asked. "If they don't now," Ethan said, they will soon. The dreadnought shifted its course slightly, keeping the alien ships centered in its tracking range. The rest of the human fleet was already moving into position, silent and invisible, waiting for the signal. The next few hours would determine everything. Either the intruders would be destroyed, or they would vanish into human history as the first enemy fleet foolish enough to cross the border and live to tell the tale. Ethan's mind flashed back to other battles, to the wreckage of ships drifting in silence after victory, to the words of an old admiral who had once told him, in human space, "There are no second chances for trespassers." He tightened his grip on the railing, knowing that the alien fleet was speeding toward the moment when they would learn that lesson for themselves. The crew continued to work quietly but efficiently, every display showing lines of data, trajectory paths, and weapon status indicators. The alien ships were getting closer, and the faint rumble of the dreadnought's engines signaled that they were matching speed. The trap was already forming. In the cold void beyond the glass, two forces moved toward each other, one unaware of the danger, the other prepared to make sure the galaxy never forgot what happened when someone dared to enter human space uninvited. The first wave of human response came quickly, almost as if the fleet had been waiting for this very moment. Far from the dreadnought Valiant Resolve, near the Glamora relay, Commander Jacob Hart's destroyer squadron was already on the move. The destroyers glided through the darkness with silent precision, their sleek hulls blending with the shadow of massive asteroids. Jacob sat in the command chair of the Iron Spear, his eyes locked on the glowing holographic map in front of him. Every green dot was a human ship, every red mark an alien target. The Glamora relay was not just a communications hub, it was a gatekeeper. Its purpose was to watch the far edges of human space and send the alarm the moment anything unusual happened. Now that the alarm had been sounded, Jacob and his squadron had one job: intercept and delay the intruders. Even if it meant engaging them head-on, the destroyers were not as heavily armed as the dreadnought. But they were fast, agile, and built for surgical strikes. Jacob's plan was clear. He would use the cover of the asteroid belt to hide his approach. And when the time was right, he would strike at the alien formation's sides, forcing them into a path they couldn't escape. "Helm, adjust course 5 degrees to port," Jacob ordered, his voice calm but carrying authority. "Keep us in the asteroid shadow until my signal." His helmsman nodded, and the Iron Spear eased into position, its engines humming softly in the dim light of the bridge. Officers monitored targeting systems, reactor levels, and incoming sensor data from scout drones. The alien fleet was impressive, sleek, fast, and clearly advanced, but Jacob noticed something in their formation. They were moving in a way that suggested they didn't expect resistance so soon. It was a mistake, one that humans could exploit. In the meantime, back aboard the Valiant Resolve, Lieutenant Claire Morgan coordinated from the comms deck, her voice steady as she patched in real-time targeting data to Jacob's destroyers. The dreadnought's long-range scanners painted a clear picture of the enemy, showing weak points in their armor and blind spots in their sensor coverage. As Jacob listened to Claire's voice over the comms, he felt a rush of confidence. They had worked together before. And he knew her precision was unmatched. "Jacob, you have 3 enemy scouts breaking off from the main group, likely trying to flank you," Claire reported. "Copy that," Jacob replied. Turning to his tactical officer, "Bring up the targeting grid for the scouts' arm railgun batteries." 2 and 3, the destroyers began to weave through the asteroid field. Using every chunk of rock as cover, the alien ships passed nearby, scanning the area. Their energy beams swept across empty space, but never touched the hidden human vessels. The alien captains had no idea they were being stalked. "Hold your fire until they commit," Jacob reminded his crew, his eyes never leaving the tactical map. Patience was the key. A premature strike would give the aliens time to scatter, and the humans couldn't risk losing control of the engagement. Finally, the moment came. One of the alien vanguard ships turned slightly. Adjusting its path to scan a denser asteroid cluster, it exposed its flank, the weak point Claire had identified. Jacob's lips curved into a small, cold smile. "All ships, target, and fire," he commanded. The quiet of space was shattered by the roar of railguns. Streams of hypervelocity rounds slammed into the alien cruiser, tearing through its shields and ripping chunks of molten metal from its hull. Explosions flared, sending debris spiraling away into the void. Before the aliens could react, Jacob's destroyers shifted position, disappearing behind another wall of asteroids. The alien fleet's formation faltered for just a moment. But it was enough. Jacob's squadron repeated the maneuver from another angle, forcing the aliens to adjust their course just as planned. Each small attack was not meant to destroy the fleet, was meant to push them, guide them into a narrower section of space where escape would be impossible. The alien captains, realizing they were under attack, began to fire blindly into the asteroid field. Massive plasma bolts lit up the darkness, turning asteroids into clouds of glowing dust. But the destroyers stayed hidden, slipping in and out of cover like hunters in tall grass. Claire's voice came over the comms again. "Jacob, keep driving them toward Sector 9. The mines are already in position," he acknowledged with a quick roger that, his heart pounding as he imagined the trap closing tighter with every kilometer. Inside the alien flagship, their commander would no doubt be growing frustrated. The humans were not meeting them head-on like they had expected. Instead, they were bleeding them slowly, forcing them to make mistakes. Jacob knew the psychological toll was just as important as the physical damage his second-in-command leaned. "Toward him, sir. Our armor's holding. Minimal damage so far." Jacob nodded. "Good. Let's keep it that way. The goal is to frustrate them into charging straight into our kill zone." The destroyers moved like a pack of wolves. Each strike coordinated, each retreat calculated. They would appear suddenly, unleash a burst of devastating fire, and vanish again, all the while herding the alien fleet toward the exact coordinates Ethan Cole had chosen. By the time the aliens realized what was happening, it would be too late, and Jacob intended to be there, watching from the bridge of the Iron Spear when the trap finally snapped shut. The rule was simple. Once you entered human space uninvited, you never made it back, and today would be no different. Aboard the alien flagship Zarthus, the control deck buzzed with quiet confidence. High Commander Volrek stood tall at the center, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he stared at the holographic projection of their fleet. Dozens of alien ships gliding through human space like they owned it. In his mind, this was not an invasion, it was a show of dominance. Humans, he believed, were too young, too inexperienced in galactic warfare to pose a real threat around him. Alien officers worked at their stations, adjusting navigation routes and scanning the surrounding sectors. Their armor gleamed in the dim, blue-lit chamber, each movement sharp and disciplined. Still, one officer was less convinced. Second-in-command Talrek, whose keen yellow eyes flicked from the hologram to the commander. "High Commander," he said cautiously, "the humans are known for unpredictability. Their tactics are unconventional. We should not underestimate them." Volrek's jaw tightened, his voice calm but edged with irritation. "Talrek, they are a border species. Nothing more. Their territory is large, but their technology is centuries behind ours. This campaign will be over before they even understand what happened." Talrek held back his response, but his instincts told him the humans were not to be taken lightly. The Zarthus' scanners swept the area ahead, picking up faint distortion signs of human ships, but they were too far away to get a full reading. The alien crew logged the data but dismissed it, assuming it was just patrol craft falling back. In truth, they were shadowed by cloaked human strike cruisers, ships designed to hide until the perfect moment. As the alien fleet pressed deeper into human space, their formations stayed tight, their long, blade-shaped ships slicing through the dark. Each vessel armed with plasma cannons and shield generators that pulsed faintly with blue light, they radiated confidence. But that confidence was slowly becoming arrogance. Volrek's claws tapped rhythmically against the side of the command chair. "How soon until we reach their nearest colony hub?" he asked. 6 standard hours at current speed," one officer replied. "Their defenses will be minimal if our intelligence is correct." Volrek nodded, a slow, predatory smile forming. "Good. Then prepare the fleet for initial strikes. I want to send a message to their leaders." Taurek glanced at the scanner feed again. "NE's growing." "Hi, Commander. We've picked up energy signatures on the far perimeter. Low, but consistent." "I believe they are following us. Let them follow," Volrek said dismissively. "We will crush them when they draw near. Our firepower is unmatched," inside his mind. Taurek imagined another scenario, one where these humans did not fight, the way the commander expected. Stories had circulated across alien space, half dismissed as myths about human ambush tactics, about how they could turn scraps of metal into lethal weapons. He kept his doubts to himself, knowing Volrek would see them as weakness. The alien fleet altered its path slightly to sweep around an asteroid field, their sensors scanning the rock formations for any sign of hidden human activity. The readings came back clearer, so they thought. The humans were too skilled to let themselves be detected so easily. They had hidden their ships in the asteroid shadows, their power cores masked to mimic the cold emptiness of space. In the observation gallery of the Zarthus, junior officers watched the stars drift past, some whispering in their own language about the human reputation for stubborn defense. Others laughed, convinced that the humans would crumble like so many other species had before them. It was this underestimation that Ethan Cole and Jacob Hart were counting on. The Zarthus's communications array crackled to life, receiving coded signals from other alien ships in the fleet. Reports of minor damage from railgun strikes filtered in, but Volrek waved them away as unimportant skirmishes. "These are distractions," he told his crew. "Their ships are too small to challenge us directly." He didn't realize that these distractions were part of a larger strategy. Taurek leaned closer to the holographic display, tracing the path of the fleet with one claw. Something about the route felt wrong. It was too narrow, too predictable, almost as if someone was guiding them. He thought about voicing this, but hesitated. The commander's pride was a wall that no logic could breach. Still, the alien flagship maintained its course, every moment bringing them closer to the heart of human space. The commander's mind filled with visions of easy conquest, of the political power he would gain once human colonies fell. He could already imagine the humans begging for mercy, offering tribute. What he could not imagine, what he refused to imagine, was that somewhere, hidden in the cold silence around them, human ships were moving into place, their captains patient, their weapons ready. The Zarthus and its fleet were not hunters here. They were prey walking willingly toward the trap. Taurek's final glance at the scanners made his stomach tighten. The faint energy signatures were still there, never closing in fully, just staying at the same distance, always in the shadows. He knew then that this was no random coincidence. But by the time he realized the truth, it was already too late to turn back. In the cold shadow of a shattered moon, the human trap waited. The debris from the moon's broken surface floated in slow silence, huge fragments drifting like ghostly mountains in space. Hidden among these shadows was the dreadnought Valiant Resolve, its dark hull blending perfectly with the surrounding rock. Every light on the ship dimmed, every system running at silent combat levels. The crew moved quietly, their voices low, knowing that the enemy was coming straight toward them. Captain Ethan Cole stood on the command deck, his eyes fixed on the main tactical display. The alien fleet's red markers were slowly moving into the highlighted zone. Just as he had planned, his orders were simple: cut off any chance of retreat. The aliens would have no way to turn back once the trap closed from the far side of the debris field. Commander Jacob Hart's destroyers surged forward in perfect formation. They had been pushing the aliens into this narrow corridor for hours, striking from the shadows and then disappearing again. Each attack forcing the enemy to change direction, guiding them like a predator herding prey. The aliens didn't realize that the safe path they thought they were taking was exactly where the humans wanted them to go. It was a deadly funnel, the kind of battleground humans excelled in. Stealth frigates already positioned ahead began to release their payload mines, small but deadly, designed to activate when they detected the specific energy patterns of alien ships. They drifted silently into position, invisible to standard scanners. Claire Morgan's voice came over. "The comms, clear and steady. Minefield is active. Phase 2 ready." Ethan nodded, his jaw tightening. This was the moment where patience mattered most. If they revealed themselves too early, the aliens might scatter, and the trap would fail. Inside the alien flagship Sarthus, High Commander Valrek still believed he was in control. The narrow corridor ahead seemed like a perfect path to bypass heavy human defenses. His crew detected faint energy fluctuations from the debris, but dismissed them as natural readings from the shattered moon. As the aliens pressed forward, Jacob's destroyers suddenly appeared at their rear, their railguns firing in precise bursts, not to destroy but to push. Each hit forcing the alien formation tighter together. The aliens responded with bursts of plasma fire, but the destroyers weaved between debris and slipped back into the shadows. The alien vanguard, now focused on defending their rear, failed to notice the cloaked human ships lying ahead. Their engines cold, their weapons ready. Slowly, the alien fleet drifted deeper into the corridor. Ethan's gaze didn't leave the display. "Hold until they're fully committed," he said. The bridge crew watched the blinking red markers of the alien ships, knowing that once the last of them crossed the invisible line, the attack would begin. The tension in the Valiant resolves. Bridge was heavy, each second feeling longer than the last. Weapons officers checked targeting solutions. Engineers rerouted power to shields and weapons. Fighter pilots in the hangar bays sat strapped in, waiting for the green signal. Then it happened. The last alien ship crossed into the zone. Ethan's voice was calm but sharp. "All units, execute." The trap came alive in an instant. Mines detonated in brilliant flashes of light, ripping through the shields of 3 alien cruisers. Stealth frigates decloaked and launched torpedoes into exposed hulls. Jacob's destroyers swung around to seal the rear. Cutting off any escape route, the aliens realized too late what had happened. Chaos broke out in their formation, captains shouting orders, ships turning in panic. But every direction they tried was blocked by human ships or the debris field. Claire's voice came again. "Enemy retreat vector is closed. All forces engaged." The battle had officially begun, and the humans had the advantage. From the observation window, Ethan could see the flashes of railgun fire and the glowing trails of missiles cutting through the darkness. It was a sight both beautiful and deadly. This was the kind of battle humans had trained for. Control the battlefield, deny escape, and strike with precision on the alien flagship. Volrek's confidence began to crack. Reverse course, break out through the rear. He barked, but his officers reported that the way was blocked. Human destroyers were holding position like immovable walls. His second-in-command, Talrek, glanced at him, the warning he had given earlier now echoing in his mind. The narrow corridor had become a death trap. Every movement of the alien fleet was anticipated, every weakness exploited. and Ethan knew they could not hold out for long. The moment had come to unleash the full force of human firepower, and make sure no one who entered human space without permission would ever return. Railguns roared through the darkness, their high-velocity rounds streaking like silent meteors across the void. The first salvos slammed into the alien ships with devastating precision. Chunks of glowing metal tore free from hulls, spinning away into space. The narrow corridor was now a storm of weapons fire, and there was nowhere for the enemy to hide aboard the Valiant Resolve. Captain Ethan Cole stood on the command dais, calm in the middle of the chaos, his eyes locked on the tactical display. "Target their engines first," he ordered, his voice firm but not raised. "Cripple their movement, then their weapons." His crew obeyed instantly, each officer controlling weapons batteries, calculating firing solutions, and coordinating with the rest of the fleet. In the middle of the corridor, Commander Jacob Hart's destroyers darted in and out of the debris shadows, their speed unmatched in close combat. They didn't waste time firing at heavily armored sections. Instead, they aimed at key systems thrusters, reactor vents, shield emitters, every hit weakening the alien fleet's ability to fight back. The aliens responded with brutal force. Plasma lances cut through the darkness, striking two human frigates. One was torn open, spilling fragments into space. The other limped back behind the lines, its hull glowing from the heat of the blast. But even with these hits, the humans adapted quickly, their ships shifting formation. To cover the damaged vessels, Ethan watched it all without flinching. His strategy was clear: keep the pressure constant, force the enemy to react. Every time the aliens tried to form a counterattack, the humans disrupted it. Railgun fire from the dreadnought shattered an enemy cruiser's bridge, and the massive ship drifted helplessly before exploding in a chain reaction. Fighter squadrons launched from hidden bays, small and agile. They weaved between the larger ships, firing missile pods and strafing enemy hulls with precision cannons. The alien ships tried to swat them down with point defense turrets, but the fighters were too fast, too unpredictable. They harassed the enemy relentlessly, making it harder for the larger alien vessels to focus on the main fleet. Inside the alien flagship Zarthus, High Commander Volrek gripped the railing beside his command chair, his eyes darting between damage reports. Increase power to forward shields. He barked, but his crew struggled to keep up. Human strikes were coming from multiple angles, and their shields could not regenerate fast enough to withstand the constant assault. Kelrek, the second in command, studied the tactical screen with quiddy quez. With grim realization, "They're not trying to destroy us all at once," he said quietly. "They're dismantling us piece by piece." But Volrek ignored him, still clinging to the belief that a single concentrated push could break through. On the Valiant Resolve, Claire Morgan's voice rang through the bridge. "Enemy flagship is attempting to direct fire at our forward shields." Ethan didn't hesitate. "Rotate the ship 30 degrees. Fire a full railgun volley at their port side." The dreadnought turned slowly but powerfully, bringing its main guns to bear. The volley struck the Zarthus hard, its shields flickering, a massive gash opening along its side. The corridor lit up with more explosions as Jacob's destroyers unleashed torpedo runs, the warheads smashing into the midsection of alien cruisers, tearing them apart in bursts of light and fire. Each destroyed vessel became another obstacle in the cramped space, forcing the remaining alien ships to maneuver awkwardly, making them even easier targets, even as the aliens fought back with everything they had. The humans adapted in seconds. Damaged ships rotated out of the front lines. Replacements surged forward, keeping the attack constant. It was a relentless rhythm: hit, move, hit again. The crew of the Valiant Resolve worked like a single living machine, every officer, engineer, and gunner knowing their role. Missile salvos launched in perfect sync, railguns fired in devastating patterns, and laser batteries cut clean lines through enemy armor. Ethan's calm voice cut through the noise, giving short, clear commands that kept the battle firmly in human control. Volrek's fleet was being shredded, but his pride wouldn't allow him to order a retreat. Still, he could see the inevitable human tactics were unlike anything his people had prepared. For they didn't rely on brute force alone. They used speed, precision, and perfect coordination. A sudden explosion rocked the alien flagship, sending sparks across the bridge. Talrek's claws tightened on the edge of his console. "Commander, if we don't pull back now, there will be nothing left of our fleet." But Volrek only growled, his focus locked on trying to punch a hole in the blockade. Back in the human lines, Jacob's voice came over the comms to more cruisers down. "Captain, the corridor is closing fast." Ethan's eyes stayed on the display. The alien fleet was bleeding ships with every passing minute, their numbers dropping, their formation collapsing. Soon they would have no choice but to face the truth. There was no way out. And still, the humans pressed on, every strike precise, every move deliberate, determined to make sure that the message was clear to every star system watching enter human space uninvited. And you will never make it back. The battle was already fierce, but everything changed when the human strike bombers made their move. From high above the battlefield, beyond the range of most alien sensors, Lieutenant Jason Reed led a squadron of heavy bombers, their engines running low and silent, until the moment they dove. The blackness of space lit up as their hulls caught the glow of distant starlight. Their formation tight, their weapons armed. The bombers were not designed for speed, they were built for devastating impact. Each carried kinetic penetrators, the size of small shuttles, solid metal cores meant to punch through even the strongest shields. Jason's voice was calm over the squadron channel. "Remember your targets. One run, make it count." The pilots responded with short acknowledgments. They all knew there might not be a second chance. As the alien fleet fought desperately against the humans below, the bombers came in from above, undetected until it was too late. Their payloads dropped in perfect unison. The penetrators slammed into alien shields, the force so great it shattered them like thin glass. The blasts tore deep into the hulls, ripping ships apart from the inside. One of the penetrators struck the alien flagship Zarthus. The entire ship shuddered under the impact. Alarms wailed across the command deck. Consoles sparked and flickered. Volrek's grip on the railing tightened as the deck tilted under his feet. "Return fire. Destroy those bombers." He shouted, but the damage was already done. Talrek glanced at the tactical display, his voice tense. "Our forward shields are gone." Hull breaches on decks 3 through 6. Another blast rocked the ship. "If we take more hits like that, the flagship won't survive," he warned, back in the human lines. Ethan Cole watched the attack unfold with sharp focus, his eyes following each bombing run on the tactical display. "Good work, Jason," he said, into the comms. "Pull your squadron back to rearm. We'll keep the pressure on." The strike bombers veered away, engines flaring as they climbed back toward safety. The alien fleet, already struggling, now faced complete collapse. Several cruisers were drifting powerless, their engines destroyed. Others were burning from internal explosions. Volrek's one-sprout formation was now broken, scattered into smaller groups trying to find a way out. Desperation gripped the alien commander. "Order the fleet to regroup behind the flagship. We break through their lines now," he barked. But before his ships could respond, a ripple of distortion appeared directly ahead of them. Human reinforcements. A blockade fleet dropping out of hyperspace. Massive silhouettes emerged, their hulls dark and bristling with weapons. They formed a wall in the void, cutting off the only open path of escape. Volrek stared at the sight in disbelief. "No. No, this is impossible," he muttered, on the valiant resolve. Claire Morgan confirmed what everyone already knew. Blockade, fleet in position. Alien retreat vector sealed. Ethan gave a single nod, his expression calm, but his voice carrying a deadly certainty. Then this is where it ends. The alien ships hesitated, caught between the relentless assault from behind and the immovable wall ahead. Some captains began to broadcast desperate calls for orders. Others simply turned to fight in a last act of defiance. Jason's bombers, now reloaded, prepared for another pass, this time targeting any ship that tried to break formation. Every attack from above was matched by strikes from Jacob Hart's destroyers below. The aliens were caught in a tightening vice. Taurek turned to Volrek, his voice low but steady. "Commander, we are surrounded," but Volrek refused to admit defeat. "Then we fight until the last ship," he growled, even as the crew around him exchanged uneasy glances. They knew the battle was already lost. From his command, dais, Ethan could see the shape of victory forming. The alien fleet was shrinking by the minute, their weapons fire growing weaker, their movements slower. The blockade fleet ahead began to advance, pushing them further into the trap. For the humans, it was now only a matter of time. Every passing second brought them closer to total destruction of the invaders. And for Ethan, there was no doubt once the last alien ship fell, the galaxy would remember this day as the moment everyone finally understood. No one enters human space uninvited and lives to tell the tale. The alien fleet was broken, surrounded. On all sides, the humans moved in with cold precision, tightening the noose with every passing minute. The once proud formation of sleek alien warships was now scattered, their movements erratic, their weapons firing without coordination. It was the final stage of the battle, and the humans knew they had already won. Captain Ethan Cole stood on the command deck of the Valiant Resolve, his gaze steady as he watched the tactical display. Red enemy markers were disappearing one after another, replaced by the cold gray icons of destroyed vessels. All ships maintain pressure. "No one escapes," he ordered, his voice firm but calm. He didn't need to shout. Every crew member knew exactly what was at stake. Commander Jacob Hart's destroyers moved like hunters circling wounded prey, darting in and out of the wreckage, targeting exposed engines and weapon systems. Each time an alien ship tried to turn away, a human destroyer was already there, cutting off its path. Railguns fired in steady rhythm, each impact breaking more of the enemy's will to fight. On the alien flagship Sarthes, chaos had replaced order. Alarms blared, smoke filled parts of the bridge, and the crew scrambled to keep the ship operational. High Commander Volrek gripped the edge of his command chair, his claws digging into the metal. "Hold the line," he roared, but the panic in his crew's movements betrayed the truth. They knew the line was gone. Taurek moved to his commander's side, his voice low but sharp. "Commander, we cannot win this. Every escape route is blocked. Our weapons are failing. Our ships are falling one by one." Volrek's eyes burned with stubborn pride. "Then we take as many of them with us as we can." Taurek shook his head. "If you fight to the last ship, you'll give them exactly what they want. Complete victory and a warning to the rest of the galaxy. Your name will not be feared. It will be pitied." But Volrek ignored him. Back in the human lines, Ethan's eyes locked on the Zarthus. "Target the flagship. Bring its shields down," he ordered. The Valiant Resolve shifted position, its main guns aligning. The first volley struck the alien ship with devastating force. Shields flickered and collapsed under the combined fire of multiple human vessels. Armor plating cracked and peeled away, exposing glowing internal structures. Claire Morgan's voice cut through the noise. "Flagship hull integrity at 30%. Ethan nodded. Finish it. Jacob's destroyers moved in from the flank, torpedoes streaking toward the alien vessel. The explosions tore open massive sections of its hull, venting atmosphere and debris into space. The Zarthus staggered under the assault. Drifting helplessly inside the alien bridge, sparks rained down as control panels overloaded. Crew members shouted damage reports over the wailing alarms. Volrek's grip finally loosened, his gaze fixed on the growing cracks in his ship's structure. Oh, for the first time in the battle, doubt crossed his face. The end came swiftly. A final broadside from the Valiant Resolve's railguns ripped through the flagship's core. A blinding explosion erupted, consuming the Zarthis in a sphere of fire and metal. The shockwave rippled outward, lighting up the wreckage around it on the human command deck. Silence fell for a moment as they watched the enemy's leader vanish. With their commander gone, the remaining alien ships faltered completely. Some tried to flee, but were destroyed within minutes. Others powered down their weapons and waited for the inevitable. Human warships moved in methodically, finishing off resistance with precise, controlled strikes. There was no chaos in the human attack, only efficiency. Ethan took a slow breath, then spoke into the fleet channel. "This battle is over. Sweep the field. Make sure no hostile craft leaves this sector." Salvage teams were already launching from carriers, moving toward the drifting wreckage, securing valuable technology, and searching for survivors. The void, once filled with the roar of battle, returned to eerie silence. Only the soft hum of human engines and the distant crackle of dying fires remained. Ships that had been enemies minutes ago now floated lifeless, their jagged hulls casting long shadows in the cold starlight. For the humans, it was more than just a victory. It was a message, a reminder to the galaxy that human space was not a place to trespass. The cost of this mistake would echo across alien worlds for years, whispered in fear by those who thought about crossing the border. Ethan stood at the main observation window, watching the debris drift. "They thought they could walk into our territory and leave," he said quietly, almost to himself. "Now they'll serve as a warning." Claire stood beside him, her eyes scanning the field. "No one who enters human space uninvited ever makes it back," she replied, her voice steady. And somewhere, far beyond the battlefield, alien leaders who had once doubted the danger of humans would soon hear the reports. They would see the wreckage. They would learn the fate of the Zarthis. And they would understand this was the line you never crossed. The battle was over, but the silence that followed felt heavy. The cold emptiness of space was now littered with the broken remains of the alien fleet. Jagged pieces of hull drifted slowly, catching the faint light of distant stars. What had once been a proud invasion force was now nothing more than scattered debris and cold metal graves. Aboard the Valiant Resolve, the crew moved with quiet efficiency. There were no cheers, no celebration, only the calm, disciplined work of professionals who knew the fight had been necessary. Captain Ethan Cole stood at the center of the bridge, his eyes scanning the tactical display one last time. The red enemy markers were gone, replaced by gray icons marking wreckage. The danger was gone, but his voice still carried the weight of command. "Continue salvage operations, sweep every sector for survivors and intact tech." Claire Morgan was at her station, her fingers moving quickly over the controls as she logged the final battle report. She typed in the simple conclusion Ethan had told her to record: "No invader has ever returned from human space." The message wasn't just for the official record, it was for history, something that would be remembered long after the wreckage here had faded into dust. Outside, human salvage ships moved methodically, deploying drones that latched on to the twisted remains of alien vessels. Some were still glowing faintly from the heat of recent impacts. Engineering crews scanned for anything valuable: weapon components, shield cores, navigation systems, anything that could be studied to make human technology even stronger. down. In the hangar bays, pilots climbed out of their fighters, their faces marked with the fatigue of battle. Ground crews swarmed over the craft, repairing damage and reloading weapons, even though the fight was finished. The fleet stayed ready in human space. You never assumed you were safe until every possible threat was gone. Ethan left the bridge for a moment, walking to the wide observation deck. From there, he could see the full extent of what had happened. The stars beyond were serene and untouched, but between them lay the wreckage of dozens of alien ships. Drifting in slow silence, their jagged silhouettes casting strange shadows. He knew that somewhere out there, other alien commanders would see this scene and think twice before crossing the human border. On the alien worlds, news of the defeat would spread quickly, whispers in council halls. Nervous glances between military leaders, some would refuse to believe it at first, claiming it was impossible for humans to destroy such a large fleet, but the survivors, few as they were, tell the truth. They would describe the relentless precision, the traps, the overwhelming force, and the fact that from the moment they entered human space, their fate was already sealed. Back aboard the Valiant Resolve, the ship's medical teams worked without rest. Some of the survivors pulled from the wreckage were alien prisoners, dazed and injured. They were placed under guard, but treated with the same medical care as human wounded. The humans weren't cruel. They didn't need to be. Their victory spoke for itself. Jacob Hart arrived on the Dreadnought via shuttle, stepping onto the deck with his uniform scorched from near misses. He saluted Ethan. "Corridors clear. No ships got through," he reported. Ethan nodded. "Good work, Commander. We held the line." Jacob glanced at the observation window, his voice lowering. "They won't forget this, Sir Ethan's." Reply was quiet but certain. That's the point. Hours later, as the salvage operation continued, the fleet began to prepare for departure. The wreckage had been tagged for later recovery, and the coordinates of the battle were locked into the historical archives. Someday, the site might even be used as a warning beacon, a place where travelers would pass and remember the fate of those who came uninvited. Claire finished her logs and stepped onto the observation deck, standing beside Ethan. The two of them watched as the last alien fires dimmed into cold darkness. "We didn't just defend our space today," she said softly. "We reminded the galaxy that human borders aren't lines on a map, they're walls." Ethan's gaze stayed on the drifting wreckage, "and we're the ones who make sure those walls hold." The Valiant Resolve slowly turned, its engines flaring to life. One by one, the rest of the fleet followed, forming up into their standard travel formation. The silent graveyard of ships faded behind them, but its memory would remain, carried in the minds of every soldier who fought here and in the stories that would spread across the galaxy. No one spoke loudly as the fleet left the battlefield. There was no need. The message had already been sent in the most undeniable way possible. The humans had proven once again that they were not to be underestimated, and that anyone who entered their space without permission would never make it back.